Stop talking about comic books or I'll kill you. I don't care if the Hulk could defeat the Man of Steel. I'm gonna rearrange your face if you continue to debate whether Logan's claws could pierce Steve Rogers' shield. I just couldn't care less if they bring back Kraven. And I don't care if Spider-Man's a clone. Stop spending all our cash on back issues of The Flash, or I swear to God you're gonna spend your twilight years alone. You can call them graphic novels. They're still just plain old comic books to me. And I don't see why you must always ceaselessly discuss the post-zero-hour continuity. For the last time, I won't read those curvy X-Men. You know that I prefer the work he did for DC. And if you don't want to die, you'll lose that on the street price guide, comic buyer's guide, and Wizard magazine. But please get the new Invisibles for me.
Hey everybody, how are you tonight? I hope you're having a great evening. So we're here again with another review. We didn't do a Wednesday review this week, but we are planning to do them more regularly. We actually had a pretty good response from the last Wednesday review, and we think it's pretty cool to have something available for people who just went to the comic book store and picked something up off the shelf and might like to see another opinion after having their purchase. So next week we'll probably do a Wednesday review as well, and we'll also follow up with a Thursday review of a crowdfunded book, just as we're doing today. So with that, let's jump into the chat. Say hello to everybody. Hopefully everybody's doing well tonight. Wilberforce Wooster, our regular, is always here. Thank you. It's great to see you. James Hayes. Somehow I haven't been able to motivate myself to take the book out of the bag and read it yet. It's setting over on the corner table in its packaging. I just look at it. Well, hopefully tonight will help you decide whether or not this one needs to stay in its bag or is worth taking out and giving a good read for yourself. So you can let us know in the comments after the review, or you're always welcome to jump into the show and tell us what you think. Rebel Comics, welcome. That's reassuring to know that you haven't done crack, but maybe you'd want to give it a try. You know, life is pretty short, and I hear it's pretty good, so give it a shot. Smug Pug, yep, we'll try not to spoil it for you. We'll see. You know, it all depends on what the other reviewers want to say, but if we want to keep it on that level where we minimize the spoilers, then we're certainly going to try to do that. Testify HG is advertising the Jack Show. He's now a Jack Show shill. You know, clout chasing and stealing other people's content. He's got a song coming out pretty soon based on the Jack Show that he's been mixing. So look forward to that. Testify HD's Jack Show song as he promotes it here today. Hey everyone, the Jack Show is on. You should all go watch that instead of this public execution. I have no idea who's being executed, but you know, Testify said so. Jazz Crab, great to see you. Thanks for being here. Caitlyn Jenner is the monster. No, she's the future governor of California. So look forward to that. Amit Reina, it's great to have you. You're more than welcome to jump in afterwards. Finatra's still a rat, FYI. Okay, that was for our interest, clearly. Hothead Studios, great to see you. You're really regular, so I appreciate that. I like loyal viewership, and it's great to have you interacting with us in the chat. That's really appreciated. 2 years in the fucking making. Hope it was worth the wait. Yeah, that's the standard wait time for all of these crowdfunded books, unfortunately. But as long as the finished product is worth it, that's pretty much the bottom line. And Matthew Fowler, welcome. Great to see you. All right, with that, let's now bring in our review panel, and we'll discuss what we talked about last week and what we have to look forward to tonight. So please welcome the subdued and somewhat muted, demure Moonshine. The effervescent and always pugnacious Smug. Hello, Nurse.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Vicky. How are you?
Please don't sing the Animaniac song again.
I promise nothing.
Promise.
Except that I promise I will sing it. So welcome, everybody. It's great to have you all back. So I hope you're looking forward to tonight's review. Everybody seems very sullen and quiet.
Well, I'm just upset. Well read.
What's on your mind, Smug?
Moonshine keeps copying my cadence and my voice, and it's confusing the audience. I think he needs to cut it out.
No.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't tell you apart, honestly. I listen on the stream, and I'm just confused about who's talking.
What's the deal with... Why is Vicky here again? She's been here 3 shows in a row. Is she a regular
Vicky's
now?
having a few issues with her audio, so...
We can hear you fine.
I think Vicky just enjoys reviewing comics and hanging out with us, and we're happy to have her.
But why? Why?
So that we don't all sound alike, for crying out loud.
I think what Smug is saying is he would like Dean to be a guest.
Exactly.
No. Dean can stay gone. I noticed we got a little cameo in the CGDG stream on Sunday. You guys were talking about terrible and boring Comicsgate streams, and then I see 3 little avatars pop up on the screen. There was a little bunny rabbit. There was Moonshine's avatar.
I did not edit that video, so I am completely innocent.
Mm-hmm.
I was just happy to feel included, to be honest. I didn't mind.
Aww.
I'm happy when anybody talks about me in any fashion whatsoever. I did hear an interesting criticism today. Dark Gift said that we do pretty on the level reviews, but that our audience, our crowd, is a little bit rowdy. And we have a rough crowd, he said. It made me think of Shakespeare in the Park. I'm sorry, I'm going to be an ass, but I'm going to do this pompous analogy. It made me think of Shakespeare in the Park in the 17th century, where they try to go out there and do serious theater, and then they get tomatoes and rotten lettuce thrown at them because the audience hates it. So
Well,
I think that's what we're here for.
I mean, I think Dark Gift just doesn't like that the guy he doxed on Kiwi Farms was in the chat. I don't know.
Oh, don't start that. I've seen that. I've seen the back and forth between those two. Don't you cause trouble, Moonshine. That's Dean's job.
Velmed wants more monotone from us, so everybody, please, let's bring down the cadence. Piper might be watching.
Dark Gift Comics says Vicky is vying for Smug's spot on the show. Vicky, is this true?
No, Smug. I would never take it.
Yeah, she's trying to take Well-Read spot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We'll all be.
Smug. I want to be in
that's
charge.
a good idea.
Yeah.
Everybody wants everybody else's job. The grass is always greener, just so all of you understand. This seat is not actually that comfy, although it has fit to the contours of my backside, so I'm probably reluctant to move aside. But last week we talked about Common America, and I think it was 3. It was pretty good because we actually had the creator come on, Tim Lim, and that was a nice surprise to be able to talk to him immediately after the review. What did you all think of Tim Lim's?
I would have liked to gotten more into how he thinks it's because he said girls tend to like it. And I think there's a lot of good lessons that girls could learn for the book that don't just be nice to everyone. It's actually played out in a realistic sense and how people work out conflicts and whatnot.
Yeah,
I'd like
I
to
always
see-
I always enjoy talking to Tim. So.
I'd like to see more girls wearing outfits like Carmen America. Get those butt cheeks out on display.
Yes, present those childbearing hips
Sorry,
for all of
Smug.
us. Testify is already bored with us. He says nobody cares about our conversation.
Not gonna be me.
Well, Rebel Comics says Testify claims he's been doxxed again for the 20th time.
I don't know. I mean, how many times can you dox somebody?
I thought it
think
was
the real-
once.
I think the real question is who's been doxed more, Testify or that umbrella guy?
That umbrella guy.
Yeah.
I mean, at least Testify's mailbox is still in good shape.
Think of the mailboxes before you go out and dox people, children. Think
That's
of the
right.
mailboxes.
Although maybe it's hard to hit because it's probably really low, so he can get the mail when he goes out in his wheelchair. So it might be hard to knock down.
Dark Gift Comics has a question for you there, Well Read.
Says
Yeah,
I
you
still
did.
wanna-
You did say something odd there. You you mix some words together when you were talking about
Oh, I
Testify shilling the Jack Show.
I said Jack Show song. Sorry.
No, you didn't. You said schlong.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, that was clearly a Freudian slip. I was thinking of Dean and wishing he was here.
Why isn't Dean here?
Well, in Discord, he says, I'm going on with Lunga in 20. Fuck your boring ass CG YouTube. I'm taking EVS's advice in all caps. So we've been betrayed by Dean. He's with Lunga
We've
now.
been backstabbed. Now we have to talk about him on Twitter every day.
I do that already.
Well, that's just the circle of life in
Mr.
CG.
Dogs, I don't think so, but maybe.
No, he just got a community guideline strike, apparently. Well, actually, we don't know because he refuses to show the notice from YouTube.
Was it an Amber Heard video?
It was he claims it was a stream where he was talking about being mass flagged, and then that it was mass flagged while he was streaming and taken down after it was private.
After it went private, it was taken
After
down.
he privated it.
What? But why did he private it in the first
Because
place?
he privates all of his streams so that nobody will flag them after he streams.
So it's almost like it was an automatic strike.
Yeah, the strikes happened while he was streaming. He also claims that he deletes them all after he privatizes them, but he's got to keep them up for a while in order to get the monetization, the super chats.
Sounds too
Won't go through
complicated
unless
for me.
Yeah, it's all stupid.
Well, on that note, tonight we are going to be discussing a long-awaited crowdfund project from CG. I don't know how much promotion this book actually got on any of the main channels.
Oh, quite
Lot.
a bit.
Okay.
Lot of promotion.
Well, it's not one that I was really keeping my ear to the ground for, but I'm happy to discuss it and be pleasantly surprised if it's a quality project. So here is the book. It is Monster MD by Von Klaus. Now, has Von Klaus ever appeared on any of the CG shows?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I don't know why
I
this
think
is...
he still hangs around like Clint Stoker and stuff. I think you can see him there. Eric Weathers, stuff like people like that.
He was
Okay.
on Michael Bancroft's show, I want to say last week. But I'm not really too familiar with Von Klaus.
I don't actually see much of him except occasionally on Twitter. So
Actually,
I'm sorry.
I
I'm
think
sorry
the
to tell
first,
people is Von Klaus is a pen name too. That's not his actual name.
yeah, I think the first time I actually saw and heard of Von Klaus was actually on one of Preston's writers' streams. Did he join one of Preston's writers' streams one time, Vicky, and they
he
critiqued Monster MD?
he did. I don't remember what it was about. I think he had shown up in like the chat one week, And then Preston, pretty much like threw down the gauntlet and invited him on to discuss the script of Monster MD.
Also, if you back
It was
Graveyard
very
Shift
cordial.
2, one of
and
the
this was back when CG was, well, they still do, but
Yeah, I remember because I remember I was watching it. For those who don't know, Preston does a weekly writers stream where a bunch of them go on and talk about comic book scripts that they're working on. It's usually like 6 guys on a panel streaming to 4 people in the chat. But one
it
week,
used to not be. It used to be. It used to have higher viewers. Then I left.
Well, that's because you left, Vicky, and the
Honestly,
sultry voice.
I'm not just being egotistic.
Oh, your good friend is in chat. Well read. Oh, there he is.
Spirit Car. Welcome. It's great to see you.
There's an S there. It's Spirit Scar.
The S is silent. It stands for space.
High Spirit Scar.
So I was going to say, Von Klaus, along with Cal Jameson, won the writing contest for John Malin. So if you back Graveyard Shift 2, the supplemental has a story by Von Klaus. It's kind of
and I guess on this Indiegogo, or is it? I don't remember if it was the Indiegogo or somewhere in the book. He claims that he's an award-winning author, but I don't know what award that is.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that too because I noticed that.
Yeah,
I assume.
he uses a pen name, so there's no way to find out.
Yeah.
I think he wrote movie scripts, so I think it's related to that.
Well, we have at least one audience member who hasn't taken up Jabba's offer to be executed prior to the stream. So we are doing the stream for HG tonight. Now, I'm curious, how many pages is this book?
Around 140?
Yeah, the digital version I've got's 143, and the main bulk of the book I think is 120 pages. Then there's a 17-page bonus story with the origins of the invisible nurse Heidi, how she met the Dr. Black. And then there's like a little, special thanks area with some pin-ups at the end, which I think is about 6 pages. So you're getting at least around 137 pages of story.
It's quite a deal.
That sketchbook you see, like in that tier, is about 70 pages, and it's square bound, colored. It's compared to other sketchbooks, which maybe we'll get into if we do something like Red Rooster. It's actually pretty decent size. There's a lot of informations and neat things in it.
Mr. Dong says Garth Innes made a similar comic called Code Prue about a monster paramedic named Prudence, and the entire comic book is as stupid as the title.
Right. Now, what kind of story is this? Like, to me, it seems like it's played up for comedic effect, but for something so long, I wouldn't imagine that it's very punchy if it's meant to just be something that you read to get a cheap laugh. Can you tell us if it's a bit of a story where it explores the character, or is it just situational?
No, it explores the character, the main character, and it is. I'd say there is comedy in it, like it is fairly comedic, but at the same time, there's horror and drama and a fair bit of gore and blood and violence.
It's more of. It plays itself pretty seriously, but there's comedic lines and stuff peppered throughout of it. I guess I'd liken it to Ghostbusters. The story itself is played serious, but obviously Ghostbusters is a comedy. But the world itself is played pretty seriously.
Yeah, there are moments where it gets a little cutesy, I guess would be one way to put it.
And is there an arc then for the main protagonist here? I'm assuming it's this Dr. Black. He's the center center of the entire story. That mostly focuses on him.
Yeah, there's a main arc, so I guess a little bit of backstory without too much spoilers. The title pretty much explains everything you need to know about the book. He's a physician, but he works exclusively with like monsters, so werewolves, vampires, gargoyles, succubus, and he's basically a doctor for the undead. And I guess the character arc is him trying to come to terms with how he ended up in this life, because he always wanted to be a doctor, but circumstances have kind of put him in this position where he's ended up being a doctor to the undead. And a lot of it, I guess, comes to accepting who he is, and this is his role, because he doesn't actually enjoy it. He doesn't enjoy what he does.
He's a bit like the Doctor from the 1989 Batman that operated on the Joker. He's failed, and he's just there in the basement, scraping by.
Well, he didn't really fail. He was sabotaged, I guess.
No, I didn't read it that way at all. He wasn't sabotaged. He was doing like weird experiments and got booted out.
Yeah, that's true. But the way he feels is that he was sabotaged. He believes he's superior.
Yeah.
Had something to do with slandering his bad name.
I mean, he's definitely a doctor in name only. He never got his degree.
Mm-hmm. So he's misunderstood, and maybe a bit of a trailblazer. Doing things that are against the norm, upsetting the system.
He's not really in the system. He kind of operates outside of it. He has his van, he has his nurse, he has his equipment. He just, I guess, drives around the countryside, helping out monsters.
Now, this world establishes that monsters and humans essentially live next to each other, and there's never been a way for them to seek medical attention before. They have to go to the black market, essentially, to get care.
Yeah, pretty much. They've got like the what they call the meat wagon. His ambulance thing has like some sort of alarm that goes off whenever a monster needs a doctor. It's not explained how that works. And then they head off to help people. Well, help the monsters. Or they call them cryptids, so, in the book.
So monsters are essentially second-class citizens in this story.
They're sort of an underclass, like a hidden underclass. More like than second class. So they're even lower down on the rung than that. Yeah.
Okay. So he ends up in this profession, and it seems like he's met with a number of challenges. Just by flipping through the art panels here, I'm seeing that not all of his patients are necessarily cooperative, and maybe he doesn't always have the bedside manner he needs to deal with them.
No, I think I think that's pretty accurate. I think he's pretty short on patience with his patients. Not all the monsters. I guess a lot of monsters do come to him for help, but they're always they're always trying to bite him or kill him or resist the care that he's trying to give them. So he is pretty rough with them. This panel here, he's fighting a golem. This actually isn't him dealing with a patient. This is him trying to get to a patient, which the golem's impeding. But it's pretty similar. So while he's operating on these monsters, he's being bit by werewolves. He's being attacked by succubus. He's having a vampire try and cheat him out of getting medication and trying to hypnotize him. So there's drama in the chat.
People are just arguing over who thinks the show sucks worse.
Okay.
I think Testify is winning, but it's not clear.
Well, it wouldn't be a well-read stream if we weren't boring everybody and they were amusing themselves by arguing with each other in the chat.
Yeah. Um, I mean, we've heard all the feedback, and yeah, we can address that after the review. But the book is full of contrivances for the sake of expeditious storytelling. It's a fun read, but not particularly deep. If you want fun horror, this is it. If you don't, shrug, says Arcanus Einbreck. Right. So this is a bit of the trap I fell into with the Bigfoot Bill review, where I guess I was looking for self-consistent storytelling and logic. But I get that some things are just played up for aesthetic and visceral satisfaction, like this fight, for example, to get to a patient. How would you approach reading this kind of material, Smug Pug? Do you want to invest yourself in the character, or do you just want to be entertained by the situations that he finds himself in?
I'd say a mixture of both, but I normally like my stories to be a bit deeper. I'd agree with Einbrecht's comment. I mean, the story's not too deep, but at the same time, I'd say it's probably a little bit deeper than Bigfoot Bill, but not by much. I mean, there is more going on in Monster MD than Bigfoot Bill, although the two are pretty similar. So that is a pretty apt comparison, because they both involve cryptids, they both involve monsters, they both involve a protagonist who's conflicted about where they are. For example, Bigfoot Bill wants to find his parents, and Dr. Black here wants to, I don't know, move on with his life, I guess, and do something else. He's not really satisfied with the work he's doing. And then you introduce an antagonist, and you get that happy feeling at the end when they come to terms with who they are.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it kind of explores the in a not very deep way that his feeling of being trapped, because circumstances put him into this place where he has to treat the monsters instead of, being some famous surgeon.
Does it humanize the monsters at all, or are they always just an inconvenience in the story?
I'd say they're humanized pretty well. For example, his nurse is the Invisible Woman, and he calls her a monster at some point. And she's pretty humanized, and this is a revenant, so it's like a living undead with a mission on Earth, and they develop like a friendship in the start of the book. So not all the monsters are vicious and killers. He does have like friendships with several of them, including a werewolf. They are humanized.
Any romantic interest for the Doctor?
I don't know, Vicky, was there
Kind
a
of.
romantic interest?
Kind of, sorta. There's definitely, it's obvious that from the beginning of the book that Heidi has a thing for the Doctor. That's his assistant, Heidi. And he relies on her, but, it's the whole, you've got to get down the road for it all to work out.
Well, here's the synopsis.
I don't want to give spoilers, but at the end they end up together because he realizes he loves her too.
Oh, so he falls in love with a woman that he cannot see.
Correct.
So here's the synopsis. Almost eaten by a werewolf, seduced by a succubus, a drug deal with a vampire, charades with the Slender Man. It's all in a night's work for Dr. Wyatt Black, underground doctor to the local monsters, also known as Monster MD. But what if the world's only monster doctor decides he's become more dangerous to his patients than they are to him? Interesting. So where does that conflict arise?
Well, the werewolves can't stop themselves from trying to eat him. The succubus, of course, needs to do her succubus thing. So as he treats them, that's where that conflict happens. While he's literally treating them, they're still trying to kill him.
But it says here he's become more dangerous to his patients than they are to him. Does he put the monsters into danger somehow?
Yeah, because they're trying to kill him. Sometimes he has to do sort of the non-doctory thing and break the Hippocratic Oath.
No, interesting. he's treating patients that have to fight the urge to kill him sometimes, and don't always win that fight.
Exactly.
That's an interesting dilemma. Well, so what exactly path does the doctor set out on, realizing all of this? What kind of solution does he come up with to fix all of these inconsistencies in his life? How does he get himself back on the right track?
Well, his solution is to quit. Right. That's what he wants to do. He just wants to throw in the towel and say, I'm not going to do this anymore. So,
Yeah, he essentially wants to walk away, but Heidi, the nurse, she's always there trying to appeal to his sense of morality. Where who's going to treat them if you don't? They don't have a doctor. You're good at what you do. They appreciate you despite the werewolf bites and the succubus attacks. There's no one else that's going to do this for them, and you're making their lives better. So she's always, I guess, trying to convince him not to leave.
Sauce says it's like a rescue swimmer. Sometimes you gotta knock out the person you're trying to save, otherwise you both drown.
That
Interesting.
statement's actually ironic.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I guess we get the gist of the story. Were all of you satisfied with the read that you were offered, going through this book? Um,
Oh,
I
you're
know
done
that.
with the summary?
Well, I don't want to. I don't want to beat a. I don't want to beat a horse that was never living. To
Okay,
begin with.
well, let me offer the biggest critique of the book. So it starts out with a quick patient. That's fine. It's the werewolf. You've seen most of this. He talks to his assistant, and then they get the alarm to go fight. They go find a patient, and they have to fight a golem. At that point, he sees something that makes him want to quit more than ever. It's something from the past. So he tells Heidi about the past. So these are all decent story beats for setting up a story. So you hear about his past and how he wants to quit, and you're building up tension. And then it goes through a 20-page montage of tweeting patients. So not only was the
26,
20, it was
20,
way,
26.
way too long, and it does not fit here. It does
And it
not belong
doesn't,
here. This is the worst part of the story, this montage. It
well, it
feels like
didn't,
something that should have been at the end of the book or maybe at the beginning, but it does not fit here. It feels like something
yeah,
that was
it
crammed
didn't
into the
advance the
story
story at all.
through editing, and that was the weakest portion of
It
the
was
book.
just this huge stoppage right in the middle.
And that's my main critique, because otherwise the story beats of the story are really good. Even the end of the 26 pages is pretty good because he gets attacked by a succubus and he like almost loses and dies to her. And then Heidi comes in and is like, "Oh, are you okay?" And he kind of like, he doesn't like punch her, but he like, he throws his arm off and pushes her away and say, "You're a monster." So kind of that's his low point. That's fine, but he already kind of reached his low point by looking at this guy in the past. It's like this 26 pages doesn't fit.
Yeah, I agree. It felt like that dragged on for a little bit. I have to say, like the main antagonist, like he's the character I've got on screen now. I really like the look and the physical design of him. Like I think he's creepy as all hell. Like he definitely works well as the main villain, and he's essentially hunting these monsters and eating them. So on the previous panel I showed, there was a zombie talking about how he's feasting on the undead. He eats. He's the he's the hunter of the undead. He hunts the hunters, and basically this scene's Dr. Black first meeting him because he recognizes the mask when he goes into the crypt which the golem's guarding.
Yeah, and it's a good backstory. You find out how he lost his arm and how he got his special arm. It's fine. All this is interesting, and you want to know more. but then it's interrupted by this montage of treating patients when he just said he want to quit. So why is he treating all these patients when he's reached a resolve to quit doing this? I don't know. It really pulls you out of the story. That's the worst portion of the book. And then once it's done, the story picks back up again. And it's interesting again, but that kind of takes you out of the story.
I feel like the level of interest for this story is really deflated just by asking Smeek and Vicky. I mean, do you agree with Moonshine that the story beats were just so disjointed that you
Well, I
felt...
wouldn't say they was fine. The beginning story beats are fine. The middle to the end story beats are fine. It just gets interrupted by 26 pages.
Right.
That's the problem.
Did it take you out of the story that much? This little interruption?
I was wondering
It did
when
for
this
me.
was going to end. It's like, what's going on? This is pointless.
It did
Why
for
are there
me.
so
It
many
made it hard
pages?
to really feel like diving into the rest of the book.
It does drag on. It really does drag on.
Yeah.
And it's not like the story needs filler. It's pretty long, so it really seemed pointless. I mean, I think it was an idea. He wants to like show this X-ray and all the monsters, and he wants to like show all these monsters. It's just an idea, and it didn't fit in, but he liked it too much, so he had to shove it in. I think that kind of goes back to our review of Vestige 2, where Gat really, really wanted to say Jack the Ripper actually wasn't Jack the Ripper. But when you thought about it for a moment, it's like, oh, wait, that doesn't make sense. Your great idea isn't that great, so just axe it.
Hothead Studios asks, is this a fluff book?
I don't know what that means.
Something kind of very shallow, superficial.
No, I mean, it's not the most... It won't make you think like a work of philosophy, but it's a decent story. It's got some human emotion. It's got him learning lessons. It's got a pretty good action sequence at the end. And it's got... I think the best part was how his arm is used, because it actually makes sense with a bit of the story elements in before. So like, oh, okay, I can believe that would happen. So it wasn't pulled out of nowhere.
I was actually confused about how he got the arm. Mainly because I'm looking at the panel, right? And sorry, spoiler. He gets the arm from this revenant at the beginning of the story, right? When his whole world just crashes and burns. It's supposed to be her arm, but if you look at the panel up above, it's a man's arm. So I'm like, I was totally confused as to where that arm came from, because they never show her without one. Suddenly he has this arm again after his arm has been sliced off, and I actually was a little bothered by that lack of explanation, like real explanation.
I was assuming she just like made
just
the arm
one
appear.
panel, just like one or two, just like one panel more would have fleshed that out better.
I have to say, this panel itself though is really good, because not only it's a detail, it has like, you see that medic bag, he didn't forget about that, he told her to run out with that. So I like when you include the correct details in a panel like that.
Yeah, the art was all really good.
It's actually very similar to Tales from the Classroom. I mean, one is more of a kid's book, and this is more bloody and gory, but the art style actually, I think it's pretty similar. When you just like look at the lines that they use and kind of the very expressive monster faces. It made me think of Tales of the Classroom quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, I think the art in this book's really great. Like, I have no complaints about the art. Also, I don't know how you guys feel, but it felt like Eric Weathers actually stepped up his lettering in this book as well. I thought the lettering was really well, like all these like crunches and the kapows, I guess, and the crashes through glass. Like, everything just seemed much more dynamic in the lettering in this book.
Yeah, man, I think he even signed it, so I wonder if it was just
the lettering.
He got involved with this book a lot more than he usually does, because I think Von Close is probably his friend, so he might have been asked on for suggestions about this lettering and sound effects.
Yeah.
I mean, this
back
is
to the
probably one of the best looking books we've read. It looks really good. That is certain.
yeah, going back to the story, like I feel like it's written pretty well for the most part. I think like you said, the weakest point's Moonshiner is that I guess filler backstory, and for me, it's the main villain. I don't want to start sounding like well read, but I didn't believe his motivation. Like once they have their final confrontation at the end of the book, and he's explaining everything to the monster MD. I just that explanation just didn't really sit with me. Like I didn't invest myself in the villain's motivation. Otherwise, the villain looks great. Like he looks creepy as hell. He's definitely a threat that should be taken seriously, and he's quite horrific. Like he works well on that part, but just when he's explaining to Wyatt why he's doing what he's doing and all of that, it kind of made me just stop and think, well, I don't really buy that. I don't really believe it.
I mean, I just took it as he's a madman, so anything he says doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I just feel like the villain would have worked because I guess I won't spoil who the villain is. Although if you read this book, it becomes painfully obvious, and there's a reveal. Like it's meant to be the big reveal. Here's your villain. Did you guess it was this guy? And I was just thinking, well, obviously it was this guy. That there was no one else in the story it could have been. So if that was supposed to be a twist or a big reveal, like, oh no, here's the villain. Did you see it coming? I'd just say yes, I did see it coming. I think a blind person could see it coming, and there was no satisfaction from being right because it was just so obvious. I think sorry.
No,
No,
go
you
ahead,
go, Vicky.
Smug. No, you first.
I just think with a few little tweaks, the villain could have been made a little bit better, especially like his motivation and maybe having him not be the character.
I had issue with. I felt like the monsters were all a little cliche as well.
Yeah, but they were pretty fun. Again, it's like Tales of the Classroom. We just used the standard monsters, and it's the art style really pulled them through and made them believable and fun. And that actually is a good point by Scarlet Scar. Is pretty much it was Old Man Withers all along. It's like, well, yes, of course it was.
Yeah.
Like like the villain, he works well when he's not like speaking or not. He works well throughout the book until the reveal. So here Heidi's rescuing like the little revenant girl, and you can see he's lurking in the background, and he's got his eyes glowing, and then he's got a close up of his face. Like it's really ominous. Like how well they use this villain throughout the book. Like they build up the necessary amount of tension for him. Like from the very first time we meet him, like they hint at knowing him in the crypt, and then the filler backstory. Like he's definitely presented as a credible threat, and there's a lot of tension there and fear, and you can tell that Wyatt's terrified of this villain.
Does Amit mean like the production quality?
I think so. He was asking earlier about the quality of the paper and the ink.
It's got it's hardcover cardstock. The pages are very thick, but not incredibly thick like John Malin does, which is kind of stupid.
The gloss on the cover is beautiful.
Yeah, there's spot gloss. It's square bound. It's got like gloss on the front, but then the back kind of has a matte finish and then some gloss on the picture, so it's interesting. Makes it stand out. The printing is very excellent. Everything just pops. I mean, partly obviously that's the art itself, but they obviously got the right print quality to make the most of the art. I guess we should mention the artist is Marco, Maccagini. And then Tanya Wickers was the colors, and both of them did an amazing job.
Personally, the colors were just a little bit muddy, and I don't know if that's was like an atmospheric choice, to make it seem more monster, like a monstery movie, but it was a lot of
Yeah,
Just sort of these
it's a
muddy
dark
browns
palette.
and green, dark muddy greens. Yeah.
I mean, that seemed
Yeah,
appropriate to me, but
yeah, I agree. I was thinking at first like the coloring's a little bit muddy as in dark, but I'm guessing because of the tone of the story, it was chosen to be that way. Like, there's no issues with any of the lighting, so
yeah,
I
I
think it was
mean,
just
if it was
Yeah.
a
just
stylish
bright,
choice.
it'd probably look a lot like Tales of the Classroom because that was all bright colors. But that's supposed to be more of a fun book. It just happens to be it's based on monsters, but this is supposed to have kind of a dark undercurrent, and that's the villain unmasked. Which the only good part about him is when he cut off Wyatt's arm in the past, he put that arm on his own body. So like, I have your arm. I thought that was amusing.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
That was cool.
I like the way he dies at the end. Spoilers. It's good death. It's also nice the story is complete. Pretty much everything in the story wraps up. Dr. Wyatt finds his place in the world. There's a little stinger at the end, so if he wants to tell another story, he could. But otherwise, the story itself is all of one. It's complete by the end of this book.
So
Yeah,
do you want to go into his power a bit more? Now I've got this panel up. Do you want to explain what, I guess, because he does have a power in this arm.
Well, I think it's easiest to explain with the werewolf. So they explain that werewolves biting another turns them into a werewolf. So right at the beginning, while he's trying to help this werewolf patient, he gets bit, but it's on this revenant arm. And so at the end, all of a sudden the arm starts taking on the werewolf powers. And then throughout the book, monsters are like biting or scrunching down on his arm. So this arm keeps has picked up all these monster powers. And so I thought that was fairly clever, of a way to kind of get Dr. Black powers without, making him a monster itself. It's all on the special arm, which is the only thing really special about him. Otherwise, he's just a normal guy.
Really, I never actually saw him as a normal guy. I kind of, except right at the beginning. But once he gets into his own past stuff, it turns out that he was always a monster. Like, just not a outwardly a vampire or an invisible man or a werewolf or something like that. But he was still a monster. Just me.
I mean, he worked on cadavers, but I mean, that was just his medical interest.
Yeah, I didn't. I just thought he was like a normal average Joe, and he just gets this arm, and the arm is really the only special thing about him. At first, like, you're kind of just like, well, okay, his arm was cut off. He's got this undead arm sewn onto him, but he can use it still like as a regular hand and arm. But there's nothing really special about it. But like Moonshine says, he gets bit and I guess stabbed and attacked, and I guess the arm stores the powers of those that he fights. So this is him with the golem's arm that he fought earlier, and he can transform it into a werewolf's arm and a vampire's arm, and then he gets the power of the vampire to be able to hypnotize and control people as well.
Oh, we have Matt Barr in the chat. If that's how you pronounce it.
Oh, hello, Matt. Welcome
Hi,
to the
Matt.
show.
In addition to these screenshots, I also have the PDF open. So if any of you guys have any specific pages you want to talk about, just let me know, and I'll try and jump to that specific page.
I mean, I think we've seen enough that I would have any comments on. I don't know. Do we want to talk about the Heidi backup story, or it's pretty much her origin story? There's nothing incredibly exciting about it.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of the Heidi origin story. But
Well, it's just another backstory, really.
yeah.
Yeah. Apparently, the
was a
colors
little,
were by a different person for the Heidi story.
Once again, I just felt it was a little cliche and weird, and I didn't understand her actual motivation. I realized it wasn't a very long, it was only 20 pages or whatever, 17 pages. But, you never really felt her motivation in that. She was just kind of there.
Are any of these characters particularly interesting? I see a lot of things happening around them, but do they actually have personalities that you'd want to see them do more and be in more stories, or are you pretty satisfied to just read this one book and be done with them?
I mean, it's more of their relationship to each other. You see that grow. They definitely have personalities. It's not just people that work on monsters. Dr. Black's kind of the pessimist. She's more of the optimist.
Yeah, I think Heidi was probably my favorite character as I was reading through the book. I think
Yeah.
she's the more interesting character. Like, she's invisible, so the way they like have her stand out in the story, so she's wearing the bandages and the nurse attire and smoking, and you can see the smoke going in her lungs and the sunglasses hovering on her head. She's more of a happy-go-lucky, optimistic, sort of positive influence on the pessimistic Dr. Black's life. I felt like Heidi was the
Yeah, I liked
the more
Heidi in the
interesting
main
character.
story. I just didn't like the backup story.
Did you
Yeah,
just not like the setup, or did you not like who she specifically was?
I think it was the setup. It was so I don't want to give anything away. But yeah, it was kind of a combination of all of that.
I don't know. It seemed fine to me. I didn't particularly care about it one way or the other.
She had a
yeah.
much yeah.
Sorry, you go, Vicky.
Her personality is much different in the backup story than in this one, and than in the main story. I thought. So continuity-wise, it was just a little weird.
Well, I mean, it could be that becoming invisible drastically changed her personality. But
Well, I think she was a nun in the backstory, right? She's like
Yeah.
she's like a nun, and she's kind of, I guess, pretty pious and pretty played pretty straight and serious. But I guess I know what you're trying to say, Vicky. It's
Yeah,
like,
then she falls in love, yada yada yada.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm guessing her
Like the Sound of
personality
Music.
changed.
Sorry, Moonshine?
like The Sound of Music.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, very Maria von Trapp.
Well, did we want to get into... well, actually, so is there a follow-up to this story? Do we know if there's more adventures planned, or are we happy with the resolution that the Doctor has found?
If you read the Versus book with Shinobi Sasquatch, some of the characters are brought up again, and there's some hint of what may be to come. I don't think Von Close has said anything about making a sequel, though, but there's definitely loose ends that were set up that could be turned into more stories, I guess.
Yeah, so there's a crossover book between another Comicsgate property, Shinobi Sasquatch, which at this point I'm convinced will not be out for. I think it's already 2 years late, and I don't think it's going to be coming out anytime
Yeah, it
soon.
launched about the same time as Monster Indy, and it's not finished being drawn yet.
Yeah, both these books are pretty similar. They both feature like creatures of the night. I think Shinobi Sasquatch made around, I want to say, $80,000, and this made close to 90. So these were two pretty big books for Comicsgate in 2019, because it was a case of, these relatively unknown creators coming into the space again and just making dozens of thousands of dollars.
Matt C. has the real story we should be talking about.
Yep, I was just about to highlight his question here. Von Klaus apparently got COVID.
No, he got COVID thick. I.e. being isolated and not moving around, he got fat.
I think
Oh.
a lot of us have put on a little bit of weight during COVID. Oh, rub it in, Vicky. Just rub it in. I did. Let's go back to talking about the book and not my weight problem.
Well, we're going to talk about Von Klaus's weight problem.
I wish the crossover had been more finite. It's pretty obvious that it's just going to be a one shot, and then it ends in a cliffhanger. You know.
Yeah, I assume at the time they thought, oh, we're going to keep making our book, so keep making this crossover book. But the crossover book does smell very good, if you were wondering. It's black and white as well.
So I guess, did you want to, because I guess we're getting towards the end, did you guys want to talk about the production quality of the books? I mean, I only got the digital, so I can't speak to
I mean, we
the
kind of
smell
already
and-
did.
You missed that part, Smug.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Yeah, someone asked. Ahmed asked, so we just answered.
Oh, that explains. Whenever Ahmed says anything, I just zone out and don't pay attention.
Mr.
So it's
Yanafui says Lola actually is just the talking butt.
that's how she catfishes so many people.
She could appear in Monster MD as the talking butt. There you go.
There we go. So it sounds like he wants the character to make continued appearances. And
I think so. I got the feeling that basically the story wasn't over. I mean, he could probably end it now and go on and do other books, but I think he's left himself enough room that he can bring these characters back and continue the story. It could go either way, really.
I mean, he has the problem that he was late, but he has the benefit that he fulfilled and made a quality product. So I assume he could get a lot of people back him again, but I don't know, maybe less, especially if Ethan doesn't care enough to bring him on. So I don't know what his plans are in the future.
Yeah, I think if I'd backed this, because I only bought the digital because we were doing this review, but I think if I'd bought this and waited for 2 years and I was someone else, I'd be reasonably happy with it. Like it's not terrible. Like it's definitely better than a lot of the books in comics.
I think he benefits from the fact that no one was dying to read this. It's like, oh yeah, I remember this. Oh, I'm glad I got it. I don't think it kind of flew under the radar and people forgot that they backed it.
Yeah, I agree. Although I know Vicky didn't forget. She was always telling me how much she wanted her Monster MD. Hell hath no fury like a Vicky scorned.
No, I mean, it's not that I just to get it straight, I didn't, I wasn't underwhelmed by the book because I waited so long. So that didn't really have anything to do with it.
Well, I guess you guys, I'm guessing backed this 2 years ago when it was like campaigning. How do you feel about the wait time compared to the quality of the book?
I don't see the quality of the book is fabulous. As far as production value, it's great. The art is beautiful. I don't want to have to wait 2.5 years after a campaign closes to get my book.
I think a lot of
that's
it,
just kind of ridiculous.
the delay problem.
I literally backed this book in like the final days of the open campaign before it went into demand. So the wait time was just way too much.
How about you, Moonshine? How do you feel?
I don't know. I was fine with it. I honestly forgot about this book until I was like, oh, I'm getting it.
You forgot about the book.
Yeah, I didn't. And I think I probably didn't because I spend so much time going over the books that are late and the campaigns that are late and looking at all those numbers.
I mean, he kept updates, so you knew it was coming. It wasn't like, oh, this book's never coming out like Sovereign. But
a lot of the updates were very non-specific. You know, I want updates that tell me like actual progress.
I'm wondering if a lot of the delay was because of the stupid crossover book, because his artist had to draw it as well.
It couldn't have
asked the
taken
most
that long.
important question.
is Vicky gonna flash her toes or what? Asked Jabba the Coach.
No, I'm not.
Mr. Yanafui says you originally backed because you thought Von Klaus was hot.
This is addressed to Vicky.
No, that's why I would buy Matt Krotz's book, but not Vaughn's book.
Oh.
Sorry.
Ooh, Matt Krotz.
I now hate
He
Matt
gets
Krotz.
the ladies.
Stay away from my Vicky, Matt Krotz. Grrr.
Yeah, and the book is actually getting a lot of praise from people in CG. I heard good things about it from Malin and maybe some other creators who mentioned that they'd read it.
Malin isn't one known for writing amazing stories, but
Yeah, I'm not going to trust anything Malin says about a comic book.
yeah, definitely he's still Sea Dog, so.
Yeah, like Inch High Comic Guy, he gave it a positive review, and when Von Klaus appeared on Bancroft's stream, I know Bancroft was praising him, and a lot of people in the chat seemed generally really happy.
I mean, I think it's a solid story. It's not the most amazing thing. It has the one major flaw I pointed out, but other than that, it's probably one of the more solid efforts in writing a complete story in CG, at least.
Yeah, like Moonshine said, it hit, except for that big old section, you know, about a third of the way through. It hit all the beats really well. I found, personally, I found it to be a little cliche and in some places just a little too cutesy. You know, the poop jar, which was the fertilizer
Oh, yeah.
they used to kill the golem. I mean, just these places where he tried to be funny were just just not just too cutesy is really the only word I can come up with.
That's the problem with humor. You're definitely going to get people that find it funny, but the people that don't, it's just not going to be funny to them. So whenever you try to rely on humor, you're gonna have that problem. I don't think this book used humor as a crutch, but there's definitely humor in a number of spots. So if you didn't like it, that might be annoying.
Well, Heidi's written in a very humorous kind of way. You know,
I like all the gimmicks and
she's always joking and making these little quips and playing on words and stuff like that. So
and I like all
she's
the
definitely like the comedic relief of the story.
The gimmicks of using her invisibility in fun ways.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Not at all.
The villain maybe sort of might be the reanimator, but we don't get into enough details. It's more of I want power, so the villain maybe if we got a backstory that was actually fleshed out, maybe you could make it kind of like Reanimator.
Yeah, there wasn't any sort of Lovecraftian vibe in the book at all too, so
yeah, monsters are just, it's like they make jokes like being a werewolf is actually like just getting herpes is their joke. I don't want to hear furpies ever again though. That was annoying.
See, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about.
Yeah, furpies actually kind of pissed me off because it popped up multiple times in the book, and then in the backup story they mention it again. It's just like he's really shoving this furpy shit
it's
down
one of those
throat.
things. That's funny, and I want to say, see how clever I am, people. No, it wasn't that funny. If it was once, I would have forgotten about it, but being reminded of it constantly was tiresome.
So, Hothead Studios asks, so the verdict is in, Von Klaus finally blows his load, but it was just okay?
No, I would say it's solid.
Well, I was going to ask, Red, does you have any more questions about the book, or should we get into the ratings?
Do you want to know the motivations of every character?
No, I was going to try to get into the story beats, but it sounds like it progressed pretty much how you would expect for this kind of entertainment. I mean, you want twists and turns, you want to be excited and engaged, but it also lulled for a very long period of time.
Yeah, that was unnecessary. Yeah. It just doesn't need to be there.
So it was fairly a satisfactory ride, if not a very in-depth one. But yeah, let's go ahead and do scores. I guess you go ahead first, Smeek. What would you rate it?
Well...
Oh, wait, actually, ladies first. My mistake. I was rude. Vicky.
Oh.
Sorry.
I would...
Smeek, you sit down.
Yes, sir.
I'd give it a 6 out of 10, but would not back again.
So fairly disappointed by...
Now, is it the wait time or the story itself?
It was the story. It was the story itself. It was all those little things, that I didn't like about it. Sort of tipped it just enough that I I wouldn't recommend. And the thing is like this is my kind of book, right? It's not a superhero, it's monsters, and I love like old horror movies. And there's little nods throughout the book to old horror films and stuff, but I I wouldn't recommend it.
I would say the style is actually pretty similar to Tim Lim too, right? The art style.
I don't think
Yeah, it's
so.
kind of, I do know what Moonshine's saying. I think kind of like a sort of westerny manga sort of vibe. I was getting a bit of a manga vibe from the book when I was reading it, especially the facial expressions.
Yeah, it's always a good idea to go with cartoony because then your facial expressions will actually work and won't be. No one makes a face like that, and you get hung up on that. If you're gonna go realistic, you really got to nail faces. So cartoony does save you a lot of headache.
Did you have anything else you wanted to say in your verdict, Vicky?
No, that was it.
Yeah. Well, pardon my manners. Please go ahead, Smeek.
Okay. Yeah, like the book's, I don't know. I feel like I wanted to enjoy this book more than I did because for the most part, compared to other crowdfunded books, it is actually like really well done. Like it's got a three arc chapter, like three story arcs sort of things in it. You know, the introduction, the conflict, the resolution. The writing was pretty decent. Like I can't really like critique his writing except the dialogue for the motivation of the villain. Like it didn't really connect with me. The art was good. It was fine. No complaints. The coloring muddy and dark, but I'm guessing that was the stylish choice that they're going for the book. So I won't crap it on it too much. The only part that really like stood out to me as really, really, really great was Eric Weathers' lettering. I do think he really did like he picked it up a bit in this book, like compared to usual. But I think Monster MD is like my Carmen America to Moonshine. So Moonshine can like, you know, Moonshine says that how Carmen America, you know, there's nothing inherently wrong with it, but it's not for him. I'm not really interested in the world of Monster MD. I wasn't interested in it from the get-go. I never backed this book back when it funded. I just got the PDF because I knew we were going to review it. But so it's just the concept just never really interested me to begin with. But I can still, you know, admit that compared to other books, like it's pretty well done. I'd probably give it either a 6.5 or a 7. But like Vicky, I wouldn't back it again just because I'm not interested in it.
Matt wants to see the art again. If someone has their screen ready.
Okay.
Which I can bring something
Just
up.
so the Indian things, those actually look pretty neat.
So yeah, just it's a good like it. The thing is like if you back this and you enjoy it, I could understand why you would enjoy it because I really wanted to like this book more than I did. Everything's there, but it's just I don't know. It's just not really my cup of tea. I'm not really interested in the monster doctor going around and healing doctors. But for what it is, I think people, if you back this and you're into that kind of thing, I think people will enjoy it. That's my verse. I'd say probably a 6.5 out of 10 from me.
And Moonshine, where would you place this case on the spectrum?
That's fine, Matt. If you want to see art, just say so in chat. We can bring up the art. It really felt a lot like Tales from the Classroom to me. The story itself probably interested me more than a book about kids in high school. So I guess the story itself is better. But besides that one major problem, it was a fun read. I don't know if I care to read another 120 pages, but it was a solid effort for what it was.
So would you back again?
I mean, I don't know if I care to have more story. That's the thing. It finished the story, and that's probably enough for me.
Does the crossover seem interesting? The Shinobi Sasquatch, does that seem like a better or more interesting series than Monster MD did? Or was?
I wouldn't say that. I mean, there's a couple of interesting things it does, but the overall story isn't that amazing, no.
No. I agree with Moonshine.
So it sounds like the offerings from this whatever production studio, is there competent dullards? Is maybe the way we could put it.
I think that's a perfect description. Like everything, like that's the thing. Like I was saying, like everything in this book is fine. The art's fine, the writing's fine, the coloring's fine and suits the tone, and the lettering. Like I said, the lettering is the only thing that really stood out to me as like, oh, like even here the Kathunk as Heidi's shoving the scalpel in the back of his throat. You can see the blood splatter is even included on the lettering. Like I think the lettering in this book is probably the best thing, but you can't really, I don't know, get off over lettering really.
Matt asked, "Does he have Mr. Hyde's arm?" Well, he has an undead arm, and then it's revealed that because like the werewolf, for example, bites it, so it gets werewolf powers, and other monsters like bite it or something, so it like picks up all their powers. Which is revealed near the end of the book.
Yep. So he notices the same thing that all of you mentioned, that the production is really
I mean, I
high.
think the character designs are really good. All the monsters are interesting to look at. There's a succubus. I think Dr. Black looks pretty good in terms of character design. He's not that special, but it kind of works for what he is.
So this might be the standard that we judge every book by now on this show. Is it better than Xenotype?
No. And that's why it doesn't get a 7 from me. Originally, because I was thinking, like, I'm like, oh, what am I going to give this? Like, because it does.
Wait. The coloring is better than Xenotype. And the lettering is definitely better than Xenotype.
Well, I'm
but
just
is it
more
printed
interested.
backwards?
No, it's printed normal. It's just the concept that falls short with me. Like, I'd much rather read Xenotype again than have to read this again.
Yeah.
I'm just not interested in the concept. Like it's clever, it's funny, the art's fine, the coloring's fine. Like that's what I mean. All the ingredients are there for it to be a good book. But it's just
it just doesn't gel. Right?
Yeah, it just doesn't. It just doesn't. It's not appealing. Sorry, Vicky,
I mean, I think they're a little harsh on it. I think it's more of like a movie you see on a Saturday afternoon. You have fun with it, and that's that. There's nothing more to it than that.
Yeah, I didn't hate the hour that I spent reading it. Well, except for that, but I didn't even hate that 26 pages of.
Yeah, but just baffling, really, more than anything.
Yeah.
It was more of, I want to know the story, and you're interrupting the story. But this one, could this move on, please?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, I think I'd still be interested in seeing like other books by Von Klaus. I mean, if he can get his 2-year wait time down, that'd be nice. But so for example, I think there was. Did you guys get a pamphlet with your physical copies? It was like Terror in the Trenches or something like that, which was advertising another book he was working on. I'd still give, I don't know, that a go if it was interesting and something different. It's just I'm not really interested in the monster.
Ooh, Dark Gift gives a comeback to your best friend. Well read.
Well, my best friend has a question that I was going to bring up. Spirit Car asked, would it work as an animated straight-to-DVD kids movie?
It's not for kids. I mean, maybe older teens, but it's not for kids.
Too violent for children.
Does it seem like it was written with the intention of being made for TV, though?
I mean, it's not as bad as White Lily, where it's definitely obvious it's a movie script. But I mean, maybe it's because the story beats, besides that one problem, are actually well paced and the transitions are very well. You could see this being like a brought to a movie or a mini series, perhaps. It wouldn't be that difficult.
I could see this being maybe like a Tim Burton movie for for older teens.
I mean, it could be for
adults.
teens. Teens definitely. If it was like a show for teens.
But yeah, I think this villain, just his design, would give children nightmares for days.
I mean, it's not as horrific as, like, for example, like It or something, but it's there's pretty graphic scenes and things like that. You don't want your 10-year-old reading this or seeing a show based on it.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'd sanitize it though, for TV.
Yeah, but if you sanitize it, then it loses
Yeah.
a lot of what makes it good, which I guess is the violence and the gore and the blood sprays and stuff. Like all of that was really...
the fights at the end, the visceralness of it was actually kind of what made it enjoyable, even if the villain was kind of one-dimensional, which is kind of surprising because I think even Dr. Black and Heidi, they have pretty decent depth of character, and even many of the patients do, but the villain was kind of, I'm the villain and I want power, so the villain is probably the weakest point in terms of characterization. I mean, he looks cool and he
looks cool and he is terrifying, and the idea that he's out there hunting the monsters and like all the monsters are scared of this guy too, like it really does give you a sense of terror, like for this guy. The build up with the villain's really great, but it's just the final reveal where he reveals himself to be, his identity and his motivations. That's where it immediately was just like, a bit of a letdown, I guess. It just didn't resonate with
it.
Me.
Probably would have been better if they just didn't reveal who he is in this first book.
I agree. I reckon they shouldn't have touched his motivations or who he was at all. They should have just kept him as this mysterious figure that's just out hunting the monsters.
Only reveal you need is you find out that one of his arms is Dr. Black's that he lost. That's all you need.
Yeah, that he stole the arm.
Yeah, it sounds like the passion is on the pages, but not necessarily in the plot.
No, I mean, I think he likes the idea a lot. Von Close, that is.
You have a lot of nice set pieces there, situations where you can draw something very expressive and engaging, but it sounds like it didn't have the right story beats to really make you invested in the entire series.
Well, I mean, I'll just disagree with that. I want to go over this again. That's Rob Willis, who was supposed to draw the crossover, but of course he didn't because he draws way too slow. Interesting enough, he was supposed to draw a side story for Graveyard Shift 3 and was fired after 9 pages because he was too slow.
Yeah. Which is why we're still waiting for Shinobi Sasquatch.
Yeah, and that's also why, because he had to draw those pages for Graveyard Shift and had to stop drawing Shinobi Sasquatch. So Shinobi Sasquatch, I'm sure, is at least a year out still.
Well, supposedly it's 90% complete according to the last update. So, and the update the month prior to that was 75%. So who knows?
He actually has time to draw. I think we're done with the main review, Well Read. If you want to put the link in chat.
You said though that so you do feel like the story had passion. You disagree with my?
I think the story beats are actually, except for as we mentioned before, the one part were actually well placed and the pacing was very good.
Yeah, I agree with that. I totally agree.
I mean, if you want to talk about passion, that's something else. I don't know.
I thought the action sequences were pretty well done as well. Occasionally it felt like there was like a missing panel that was probably dropped for editing purposes, so things like sort of jumped a little weird and didn't quite make sense, but for the most part that was all really good too.
Yeah, like there weren't people sneaking up behind each other constantly. It's like there was good spatial awareness throughout a fight. Everyone was where you thought they were, even if they were off panel.
Mm-hmm.
Some people also have problems with that.
Is the general assessment then that all of you just didn't find it to your taste, but it doesn't mean that others wouldn't absolutely love it? Because
I think there are definitely people that would love this, probably.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, that's why I didn't give it like a bad rating. Like I know 6.5 might seem pretty low to some people, but anything like for me, like a 5 is like a 50-50. You could go either way on it. and anything above a 5 is a recommend. Even though like this isn't really to my tastes, and I wasn't really invested in it, and even reading it, I was just like, other than like the villain and admiring the lettering, I just wasn't really wowed by it. I could still understand people, because I think Inch High Comic Guy gave this an 8 out of 10, and I could still see why it would get an 8 out of 10. I think it just comes down to your personal tastes if you'd find this interesting. So I'm not gonna, if someone comes to me and says, "Oh, you didn't like Monster MD," that it's my favorite book. I'd still understand why it could be their favorite book, because there's nothing too terrible about it, and compared to other Comicsgate books, it is probably one of the better ones. I can understand why people feel that way.